guys, it's Lotus and welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna continue on with our read-along of Guardian. Let's jump right into it. All of Mountains and Rivers, Chapter 21. Number 4 Bright Avenue isn't a spider cave, nor is it a skeleton lair. When it's daytime, not a single shadow of a ghost can be seen, and the reception room is staffed by a kind-eyed, normal old man. Later, of course, Go Chang-chung finds out that the old man isn't so normal after all. He likes to make bone carvings and keeps a pile of bones in a corner of the meeting room. If one is careless in opening a window, yellowish bone dust flies everywhere. The office has great natural lighting and each person has their own desk and desktop computer. The office is decorated with plants and well air-conditioned. A cleaner comes in every day at 2 p.m. The pantry room has a fridge and lockers, which contain cat food, yogurt, fruit, and other snacks for everyone. One time, Go Chang-chung even sees an entire drawer in the fridge filled with thinly sliced raw meat, the kind used for hot pot. He wonders who would eat hot pot in summer, until one day he sees the great beautiful Zhenhun pull out a bag and eat the raw meat from it like potato chips, blood dribbling. The next day, Zhenhun takes sick leave. Reason? Inevitable monthly problem. But it's not the kind of problem everyone thinks. On the third day, she comes back, and Go Chang-chung's jaw drops to find her slithering around in a long python tail. Zhenhun keeps eating raw meat for a few days. After that, her tail is replaced by normal human legs, and she eats like a human once again. There's another member in Chief Zhao's investigations team besides Snake Beauty, Fake Monk, and Fat Black Cat. Half a month after the incident of the hungry ghost, he comes back from what looks to have been an exhausting work trip. He sits silently at his desk the entire afternoon claiming work expenses, then lays his head down and immediately falls asleep. In the end, Chief Zhao personally tells him to head home. Go Chang-chung looks at the nameplate on his desk, which reads Chu Shu Zhi. Everyone calls him Chuge, but Go Chang-chung is intimidated by him and doesn't dare. He's around the same age as Lin Jing, extremely skinny with sunken cheeks. The fact that he looks like a living skeleton makes his face all the more harsh. He's always frowning. Perhaps it's Go Chang-chung's imagination, but Chu Shuzhi seems to frown even more when he sees him. There isn't normally much work to do. Except for the few busy days when Go Chang-chung started, he realizes this job must be the legendary, good pay, easy work, and close to home type. Only a handful of cases come in every month, and the chief usually just sends one or two of the team to investigate. Their most basic rule is, we catch ghosts, not humans. Since crimes in the realm of the living are generally committed by the living, all they need to do is make the usual rounds, file a report, and hand the case to another department. Most of the time, everyone is reading books, surfing the web, chit-chatting, and killing time until they can go home. But Go Chang-chung realizes that there are quite a few procedures to follow when handling a case. First, send someone to the crime scene, then file a report to the chief. The chief will then decide whether or not to take the case. If he decides to take it, he'll file another report to the higher authorities. It usually takes 1 or 2 working days before the report goes through, and only then can the chief and the team start working on the case. By coincidence, one day in mid-July diverges from that routine. Someone is killed by a ghost while no one was in the office. Da Qing detects some fishy underworld smell, so the chief has no choice but to investigate in person, and only gets the chance to file all necessary documents afterwards. Lin Jing's butt doesn't leave the chair for 3 days just to file all the documents for this case. And so, Go Chang-chung, in the absence of a case, survives the 3-month probation period and miraculously remains at the SIU. Even more miraculously, Zhao Yunlan seems to have forgotten how keen he initially was to throw him out, and readily signs the papers for his official employment. Go Chang-chung has gradually got used to the empty human resources department during daytime and happily runs over there to get his official employment form filed. Da Qing studies his disappearing back and climbs up on Zhao Yunlan's desk with his tail cocked. Men are fickle. At first you wanted to kick him out more than anything, but now you're letting him stay for good. Zhao Yunlan is focused on texting and says without looking up, "He has good virtue all over his body, like words in a dictionary. Treat him as a mascot. He'll bring us good luck. Plus, he's hilarious to watch. Daching is curious. What virtue? Zhao Yunlan points at his drawer, and the black cat paws it open. Inside is a huge folder containing documents, pictures of volunteer work, donation account books, etc. The information spans over a decade. There's a picture of a postcard on the wall of a rural primary school, and on the postcard is scrawled, "Take care, guys." Daching is shocked. You mean Go Chang Chung did all of this? Yeah, you know about his family. They're incredibly rich. But when he does these sorts of things, he never lets his family know. It's like he's embarrassed. He uses up almost all of his pocket money for charity and only leaves a little for himself. That's how he accumulated immense virtue. I saw his aura the other day. Oh, someone like that is hard to come by. The black cat looks even plumper than before as he trudges over to the desk to peek at the text on Zhao Yunlan's phone. Contemptuously, he says, "Are you losing your touch? You text him like 1,000,000 times a day, asking about unimportant stuff all the time. It's been 3 months. You're still stuck in the asking him out for lunch and dinner stage?" Zhao Yunlan sends the message and flicks a finger at the fat cat's head, knocking him onto his butt. Good things come to those who wait. You don't know shit about this. Shenwei's reply appears on the screen. Sorry, I have a school gathering tonight. The black cat rolls on the desk, laughing. School gathering? School gathering. Ha 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 ha, noble leader. You can keep boasting about yourself. Aren't you the self-proclaimed invincible charmer? What do you usually say? Girls can't stop staring at you? Cute bottoms drool when they see you? You've been rejected, eh? Hey, Zhao Yunlan, tell me, how does it feel? Zhao Yunlan grits his teeth, resisting the urge to have cat meat for dinner. After the case of the hungry ghost, Zhao Yunlan has kept contacting Shenwei, initially using his work as an excuse, always bothering the professor with the tiniest progress on Li Qian's case. Lately, he's shamelessly making up all sorts of excuses to ask him out, but the professor is incredibly difficult to get a hold of. Perhaps he's really busy, or maybe he's avoiding Zhao Yunlan on purpose. Zhao Yunlan has had enough of the eager and desperate type. The more reserved, subtle, and hesitant Shenwei is, the harder he tries. Just then, the phone rings, and the nosy cat eavesdrops on the conversation. An unfamiliar voice asks nervously, Hello? Is this Mr. Zhao? You offered to buy my grandfather's antique books. Is that true? Zhao Yunlan's eyes light up. Yes, when can I get them? The sooner the better, if that's okay with you. The voice says, They're rather expensive, do you think? That's not a problem. Just pick a time to meet, says Zhao Yunlan like one of the rich and powerful. The person on the phone seems very excited and agrees to meet this afternoon, praising Zhao Yunlan with words like, You're really an antique enthusiast, and you truly understand the value of cultural heritage, before finally hanging up. Da Qing coldly says, Right, if charm doesn't get you what you want, money should certainly do the trick. Noble leader, you're really the epitome of a spoilt rich brat. This poor bookseller certainly doesn't know you're an idiot who's only into action movies and martial arts novels. Zhao Yunlan picks up his checkbook and car keys, then grabs Daching by the nape, makes him squeal, and throws him out of his office. His colleagues hear the door open. Chu Shizhi raises his head from a stock market candlestick chart, but only manages to see a shadow flit by. Zhu Hong sighs. He's out cruising again. In the evening, Zhao Yunlan successfully tracks down Professor Shen at Dragon City University. When Shenwei sees his car, his eyelids twitch. He lowers his head and pretends not to notice him. He keeps walking briskly towards the car park, while Zhao Yunlan hums a sweet little tune and slowly drives after him. After a while, even passers-by are starting to grow curious. Shenwei sighs helplessly as he knocks on the car window. Officer Zhao, was there something you needed? Zhao Yunlan rolls down the window, wearing a bright smile of sunshine and rainbows, and stuffs a big wooden box into the professor's arms. Here, this is for you. Shenwei lifts the lid, takes a glance, and returns the box. No, this is too valuable. How could I possibly... Hey, listen to me. Zhao Yunlan blocks him with his hand and starts lying. I have a friend who's moving out of the country. He has a lot of antique books, even some silk and bamboo versions. He can't take all that along. He doesn't want them to go to waste, and I immediately thought of you. You're the only person who knows how valuable this is, so please help my friend out. This smooth-talking jerk, he doesn't even blink when he lies. Shenwei barely gets out a word before Zhao Yunlan starts firing away. Stop being so formal. Aren't we friends? Aren't friends supposed to help each other? I have a dinner party later, so I have to go. See you next time. Help me keep these safe, and I'll take you out for dinner this weekend. He steps on the gas, not giving Shenwei a chance to say a word, and speeds off. Wow, real slick. Real slick, Zhao Yunlan. Shenwei holds the heavy box Zhao Yunlan shoved into his arms and watches the car disappear, a million emotions rushing through him. On the one hand, his heart is softening and he really wants to give in and indulge himself just this once. On the other hand, he thinks of what a playboy Zhao Yunlan is and imagines that he must have done the same things for countless others. Shenwei grinds his teeth. He really wants to lock him up But his conflicted emotions pass. He calms down, and all that remains is unbearable loneliness. Wow, possessive, obsessive Shenwei. Wow, we got a sneak peek of that. He wants to lock Zhao Yunlan up? Okay. Shenwei knows that his first meeting with Zhao Yunlan wasn't a coincidence. Someone has set him up. The living and the dead walk separate paths. For Zhao Yunlan's sake, he'd better keep his distance. His gift has been delivered, and he even got a date out of it. Zhao Yunlan whistles merrily, pleased with himself. There's no fun in being straightforward and explicit. Zhao Yunlan doesn't care for the type who only has a great face and a big butt but no brains. Even when watching a striptease, it's the ones who never let you see everything who are the sexiest. Zhao Yunlan thinks that men of taste can't be satisfied with only vulgarity, just like a rich man can't be satisfied with gold chains and villas, but will long for antiques and paintings. So he's comparing Shenwei to like an antique painting? Shenwei. Self-satisfied, Zhao Yunlan checks himself out in the rear-view mirror. He repeats the name and lets it settle in his heart. Wow, guys, he's down bad, though. Shenwei is like a priceless antique porcelain vase. Even if he can't own it forever, putting it in his house for a few days is well worth the while. End of chapter 21. Okay. So we got a little bit of insight into Go Chang-chung's time while working at the SIU. He's officially a full-time member because his probation period went by smoothly. And so far, he hasn't had to encounter too many other spiritual cases. So he's doing pretty well. And he's warming up to everyone. He's not as scared anymore, which, you know, good for him. And then also, we see Zhao Yunlan trying to impress Shenwei by buying him some old antique books and stuff. He's acting like, oh, I just had these from my friend here, when he actually spent a lot of money to obtain those books. And we see that he's constantly texting Shenwei, but Shenwei doesn't really want to respond to him, not because he isn't interested, but because he's worried that being near Zhao Yunlan will harm him. Shenwei, you just gotta let your inner beast out sometimes. Zhao Yunlan is very, very willing. Anyway, let's continue on with the next chapter. Chapter 22. This winter in Dragon City is especially cold. The leaves have all fallen before turning yellow. Zhao Yunlan is feeling lazy and can't bring himself to do anything at all. There's nothing to do at work except a few social engagements. Occasionally, he harasses Shenwei, and the rest of the time he hangs out at home. Zhao Yunlan moved out from his parents when he was quite young and bought a 40-meter studio apartment in the city center. He lives like a typical bachelor, perfectly put together when he goes out, messier than a pig at home. Da Qing always feels that this generation's guardian really is one of the most difficult to deal with. He even changed the guardian order into a civil service department and gave it the name Special Investigations Unit. He's capable and well-connected, and he is observant and decisive on the job. But Da Qing doesn't find him very reassuring. He keeps worrying that one day Zhao Yunlan will just quit his job and work full-time as a frivolous playboy. But although Da Qing is over 1,000 years old, he's still just a cat. Zhao Yunlan's life outside of work is actually not as exciting as the cat imagines. Zhao Yunlan is probably a classic case of off-duty silence syndrome, a common symptom among busy city dwellers, but with unknown origin. He has been single for most of his life, partly because of his unusual job, and partly because of his own issues. In public, he is well-spoken and confident, but once at home, he becomes taciturn. He's not purposely rude, he just doesn't feel like communicating. If you don't talk to him, he can stay silent for an entire night without an expression on his face, to say nothing of any meaningful hobbies. Wow, really? Interesting. If it weren't for an extra set of dishes at the table, he might not even exist. The handful of lovers he has had all dumped him for the same reasons: lack of communication, lack of excitement, personality clash, no common interests. There was even this one girl who very fiercely said, "You never loved me. I've never had a place in your heart." Certainly, Zhao Yulan is handsome, rich, and young, but there are quite a few guys like that in this big city. He does have a lot of savings, but so far hasn't had the will to even buy a decent property. He spends money like water, while the place he lives in is a simple apartment block. His apartment looks like a shabby hotel room, and his entire person oozes unreliability. The date with Shen Wei is on Sunday night, so he has no plans for Saturday. Zhao Yulan wakes up at noon, hungover, and gets through the day on some stale bread and tea. He does some research on the 4 mystical artifacts, then plays video games until evening. Finally, as the night falls, a twinge from his stomach pulls his attention away from the game. At first, he doesn't want to move and tries to appease the cramps with a glass of warm water. 40 minutes later, his stomach's protest grows stronger and stronger, and he starts sweating. So he has no choice but to go out and find some food. It's winter, but he's lazy and only throws on pants and a long coat on top of his pajamas. He doesn't even bother to put on socks before stepping out. He knows his way around the neighborhood, crosses the road, and turns into a small street where he orders fried rice and congee at a familiar restaurant. The rice still needs to be fried up, and Zhao Yulan starts realizing that he really should have worn more. He decides to not stand there like a fool. Checking his coat pocket, he decides to use the time to buy cigarettes at the nearby convenience store. As he passes by a dimly lit path, he hears a man's voice violently demanding, "Give me your money, quickly!" Another voice says, "Bro, don't blame us. We don't want to do this either. We're just trying to make a living. You're dressed so well. You must be rich. So just do as we say and nobody has to get hurt. Got it?" A robbery? New Year's Eve is approaching. People from all trades are around, crooks mixed in with honest folk. Apparently, public security has been lax recently. Zhao Yulan slowly saunters forward and takes a closer look. A handful of gangsters have ganged up on a man, and that unfortunate soul is someone rather familiar looking. Shen Wei. Why is he here? Shen Wei isn't only polite towards his students, Zhao Yulan soon realizes. He's like a gentle spring breeze towards his friends, and he's like a gentle spring breeze towards his foes as well. Even when threatened by a group of gangsters, Shen Wei doesn't resist in any way, doesn't even swear. He just obediently takes out his wallet. The gangsters see how compliant he is and instantly push for more. "Your watch, too! Must be a luxury brand worth a bundle! Take it off!" Shen Wei stays silent and calmly takes off his watch. Bookworms are good for nothing, Zhao Yulan thinks and sighs. He can't bear to look on any longer and walks forward with his hands in his pockets. The gangsters snatch Shen Wei's collar. The gangsters snatch Shen Wei's watch and shove him roughly. Shen Wei's back hits a wall, and a red string peeks out by his collar. "Hey, he's wearing something around his neck. Might be jade," one of them says. Another one violently tears open Shen Wei's shirt, and indeed there's a small pendant hanging between his collarbones. It's the size of a fingernail, but it catches Zhao Yulan's eye even from a distance. It sparkles so brightly, the streetlights look dim in comparison. This isn't diamond, is it?" One of the gangsters reaches out for it. The meek Shen Wei finally frowns, wrapping his fingers around the pendant. "I've given you enough already. Don't go too far." His face comes alive with fury. The gangster who tore his shirt is terrified by his cold glare, lets go, and stumbles backwards. But they all soon realize that they needn't be afraid of this man. There's only one of him, and there are several of them. Besides, if he's that strong, why did he give them his money so willingly? For charity? The gangster closest to Shen Wei raises his hand and goes straight for his face. In his experience, when dealing with someone with glasses, the most efficient way is to knock the glasses off so they can't see and kick them down. But he has only just raised his hand when a violent kick smashes into his back. He stumbles forward, almost spitting out blood. Shen Wei dodges, and the thug crashes right into the wall. Shen Wei looks up, and to his shock, he sees Zhao Yulan, who rubs his hands and says in a vulgar tone, much like a gangster himself, "It's effing cold. Who's looking for a warm-up?" The thugs who have been startled by the sheer force of his kick, and one of them asks hesitantly, Who are you? Mind your own business. I'm warning you." Zhao Yulan loudly cracks his neck and stomps on the ground a few times as if cold. He says with a dimpled sneer, I think you're a bit wet behind the ears to be warning me. 5 minutes later, Zhao Yunlan calls the police, demanding they come pick up the trash immediately. He hangs up and gives one of the gangsters rolling on the floor another kick. You were still drinking breast milk when I first moved here. Next time, better check whose territory you're in before you try anything. Understand? The thug screams in pain. Big bro, ow! Who the F do you think you're talking to? Who's your effing big bro? Zhao Yunlan adds another kick. You think flattery will save your ass? I'm a goddamn cop, not your bro. Who the F do you think you are? Take off your belts, quick! Shenwei watches him skillfully tie all the gangsters to a lamppost and smiles callously. Zhao Yunlan belatedly realizes that he just acted out a classic scene of a knight in shining armor swooping in to save a damsel in distress. This coincidence is too beautiful, so beautiful that he might have orchestrated it himself. Zhao Yunlan feels pumped. The world seems prettier and the air seems fresher. Even his stomach hurts less. He hands Shenwei back his wallet and watch. Never thought I'd see you here. Are you all right? Shenwei gracefully wipes some dust off of himself and takes his belongings. Thank you. Zhao Yunlan's attention falls on the pendant around Shenwei's neck. At a closer look, he can see that it's a small transparent sphere and some substance inside is gleaming brightly. It's probably some type of fluorescent material. But he has never seen fluorescent light of this kind before. Zhao Yunlan has the impression that the sphere contains an otherworldly burning flame, almost as if it's alive. As he looks at the shiny little thing, it feels strangely familiar and intimate. Zhao Yunlan belatedly realizes that he's been staring, so he looks away and says, Aren't you afraid of radiation? It's so bright, it might be harmful to your body. Shenwei tucks the pendant back under his clothes against his skin. He smiles and says nothing. Zhao Yunlan isn't the pushy type. When he sees that Shenwei would rather not talk about it, he stops asking. He buttons up his coat to hide the pajamas underneath and says, These thugs look strong on the outside, but they're actually very cowardly. Why are you afraid of them? Have you eaten? Come, I'll treat you to supper. It'll calm you down. Shenwei smiles. You're too generous. I should be treating you. He hesitates and says while looking behind at the tied-up gangsters, Actually, they're struggling to survive, too. Zhao Yunlan faces the other way and rolls his eyes. Then he remembers something. Oh, right. Do you live nearby, Professor Shen? I've never seen you around here before. Shenwei's eyes darken. It's a big city, after all. Two people may never meet one another, even if they live close together. But someday, perhaps they will start seeing each other all the time. I guess that is fate. Zhao Yunlan laughs compliantly. Being a professional introvert, he doesn't even know his next-door neighbors. His life really has nothing to do with fate. Shenwei doesn't say anything more. He just follows behind Zhao Yunlan. Zhao Yunlan doesn't see Shenwei staring at his back, his eyes obscured by the glasses. His gaze is insatiably greedy, yet marked with self-restraint. End of chapter 22. Ooh, okay. So we learn a little bit more about Zhao Yunlan's true personality. So on the outside, he has a very extroverted mask that he uses to mingle with others and to get information. But on the inside, he's actually a homebody. He doesn't like to go out. He doesn't even take care of himself, really. He likes to spend money, but also not on himself. It's really like unexpected. He himself actually calls himself a professional introvert. He doesn't seem like the introverted type, but I guess behind closed doors, he doesn't really like to interact with people that much. He's just really tired all the time. But we get to see that he actually has a chance to score some points with Shenwei, because while going out to get something to eat, he sees Shenwei being bothered by some gangsters, and he comes to the rescue. Of course, he has to put on some flair, add some flair, so he pretends that he's also kind of like a gangster. Although he does tell them he's a cop, he acts just like a delinquent. But yeah, he gets to show off his cool moves. He beats them up to a pulp, and then saves Shenwei, the damsel in distress. So he thinks that, wow, everything is going according to plan. I have a date tomorrow, but wow, I met him earlier. Maybe we could hang out a little bit. And what Zhao Yunlan doesn't know is that Shenwei is really thirsty for him. Like, really, really insatiably greedy. Really thirsty. Just, he's too worried to show Zhao Yunlan his beastly nature. But yeah. So that is the end of today's reading. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm excited for them to go on their date. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!